My wife has a lot of degrees as well, so that will explain that. She's an attorney, forensic expert, and she also has her degrees in public health. So, and I have a 16-year-old daughter, so I used to have a lot more hair. And I have a 9-year-old daughter who says, "Dad, can I shave your head?" And I said, "Well, no, I like to keep my hair, but I think God has other plans for me." So, I want to thank you for having me here today, and I appreciate the giving the gift to the elementary school. What I wanted to go over today is just VCOM, our mission, and a little bit about our school. One of the things I'm really excited about is, y'all talk about service and how you serve the community. We have about 25 students right now down in Hammond. We're in talks right now with Baton Rouge General to start sending students there as well. Currently, we have some fourth-year students, and they love it down here. They want to do their family medicine residency here in Baton Rouge, and pretty soon we should be sending 10 to 20 third-year students. And our school is all about service, and I'll go through some of that with you today. So our mission, we're looking to prepare globally minded, community-focused physicians. Most of them will go into rural and underserved communities and serve a lifetime in these communities and make a big difference. We're also big about research and promoting human health. So our students, so this is our inaugural class. We are accredited to have 150 students. They do give us a little bit of overage. So your medical school, we can accept up to 162. And that's for your attrition rate. Our attrition rate is so low, normally we will have about 2 or 3% of our students that won't complete their medical degree. A lot of them have decided they want to do something, become a pharmacist or something of that nature. But this is our inaugural class. So I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, where I was born. I went to Chicago, worked there for a few years, and then I ended up in Auburn. So I was teaching at the University of Auburn in VCOM for a while. So I come to Louisiana to help start this campus. This inaugural class, 2 tornadoes, 2 hurricanes, 2 ice storms. I'm like, what did I get myself into? And we're in COVID, so we opened our building. 2 weeks later, we had to close it down for COVID, all right before we started. But this is 145. We started with 148 students. 2 of them decided to go to leave for COVID, be with their families. When the borders started getting shut down between Louisiana and Texas, they got nervous and they wanted to be there with their families. But 2 of those 3 did return to the next year's class. So here's our next class. We have 156 students in our second year class. These are ones that are just about to start their third year rotations all over the state. This is our current third year class that's about to be, and we have 155 students. I'll go over a little bit of the stats in a second. And then this is our current fourth year class. We have 100, or our current class has 162, our newest one. So one of the things we're proud about, I've gotten a lot of people ask me about being an attorney, our underrepresented minorities. How will the recent Supreme Court decision impact our recruitment on underrepresented minorities? And I always have a simple answer. Our students that are underrepresented minorities in our school, they're not there because they're underrepresented minorities. They're there because they deserved it and they earned it. So it really isn't changing the way we recruit or the way we're going to accept students. We have 59%. It used to be 63% of our students are female. So I'm hoping our next dean of this school will be a female. I think that would be a great thing. And then our Louisiana students, our mission, we want the Delta region is what we're after to improve the health here. And so 1/3 of our students are actually from Louisiana. We do a lot of research. The nice thing about we're 4 campuses but 1 college. We'll have research day on each of our campuses. We had to have one this year. Normally we would have waited till next year, but we had 85 research projects going on at the Louisiana campus. And so we went ahead and had a research day this year. When we do research, the nice thing is I have about 4 projects going on with Auburn University, a collaboration with our university here at ULM. I have projects going at Virginia Tech and Clemson, so we have a very good network of research abilities. We also have simulation. These are called SimMen. These are the high fidelity simulators that we have. We're about to do our OB section, and so we have a sim bomb. And so, as they like to say, next block we're going to deliver 200 simulation babies, and the students will name them all. But it's really important that we teach them complications and things that could come up in a simulated setting before they're out there treating patients. So our students, we use this simulation center a lot. We do small group teaching. Our students love this. They'll be up there till 8 or 9 every night. I close the campus at 10 because I tell them they have to go home and get some sleep, or else they would be up there all night. Standardized patients. So we have our standardized patient program. So we bring these are part-time employees. Some will be full-time, but most of them are part-time. We bring them in and we teach them how to play patients. These are usually, I think some of them are retired bankers, professors, physicians, and it's really important. One of the key things we try to emphasize is, if this was your doctor, would you feel comfortable? We want them to evaluate on humanism. So you got to make sure, part of the osteopathic philosophy is you want to treat people like they're your family, but also from a holistic point of view. And so we want to make sure that that is apparent in all their patient encounters. Our students start their standardized patient encounters their first month of medical school. So they'll spend about 40 hours directly in patient care every year. So these are Louisiana clinical hospital sites. Currently we have 32 hospitals that we're partnered with. We have what we call a core site program where we will send students, like in Shreveport, where at Willis-Knighton. Here it'll be Baton Rouge General. We're at North Oaks and Hammond. In St. Francis Medical Center in Monroe. And that's where we'll typically send about 20 to 30 students a year to that location. And there we have a physician that oversees their medical education that we hire, as well as clinical site coordinators. One of the really beautiful things about Louisiana is y'all have a very strong rural hospital coalition. So one of the things we're able to do here, and the reason we have 32 sites, is because at Willis-Knighton we'll send them to Claiborne Parish. We'll send them to rural hospitals because that's where we hope that they end up. And so these 32, that's why we have so many. So community outreach, I can't wait to get students down here and get them plugged into the Rotary Club here. This is just an example. Our students they do about 20,000 hours of community service in Ouachita Parish, and that's just 2 years of medical students that are there. So we have 300 on campus right now. And you can imagine I think last year they did 25,000 hours. As I mentioned, we went through all these tornadoes and hurricanes and ice storms. Well, when Hurricane Ida hit, people from the south came up to the north. And so really the Region 8 really didn't know there was a medical school there. And so all of a sudden they needed a workforce to help take care of people. And so this is the Monroe Civic Center. And within an hour of Friday Ellis and Mike Brame calling us, we had 40 students up there taking care of people. If you notice, this is the Civic Center. We're all about taking care of the community. I walk in there, there's no air conditioning. I mean, it's like 90 degrees, it's humid. I'm a geriatrician by training, and so what I notice is a lot of people are elderly. We notice that they have the same address, so it was assisted livings you heard about in different areas, how some of the elderly passed away, got bed sores. But we were able to activate a system. I had nursing students, pharmacy, and we were getting people up, we're getting them turned, we're getting them moved around so that we didn't have any of those complications. And then my boss, I drove to Dallas-Fort Worth. We bought a bunch of portable air conditioners, and we got this thing where it was actually down to about 70 degrees instead of 100 in human. We like to teach a lot of interprofessional education so that our students get, we don't want to get a God complex, and so we want to make sure they understand they're part of a healthcare team. And it takes a team to focus on the patients to meet their needs. And this is me, I'm working with nursing students from Grambling, ULM, and Louisiana Delta. This is, we go to a lot of the rural health clinics. Like I said, when our students are rotating in their third and fourth year, they're all required to do 3 months of a rural health training. But again, our first and second year students are always looking for volunteer activities. This is St. Francis opened a new clinic in Mangum. So we went out there, did a lot of health wellness education, as well as an immunization drive. One of the unique things, whenever they called us and all of a sudden we had 40 students show up at the Civic Center, the governor, the lieutenant governor, the military, a lot of them took note. And so this was an exercise we did in just a couple of months ago. And this is where the military came down and we were teaching how to put in tracheotomies and advanced airways. And then this is a community emergency response team training. This is a new model that they're going to roll out in Louisiana, but it looks like it's going to be the nationwide model. This is an effort of the federal, state, and local government. And so we work with Region 8, and this is that's our first and second year students there. They learn everything from putting out fires, how to break a window in a car, turn off water, turn off power, really to get people to safety. These are the emergency response team, even before you would have any emergency personnel or medical providers there. And that's what we want our first year students to be able to do. When they get later in their first year, second year, then they take more of an active medical role with us. The lieutenant governor sponsored this. We got 400 people trained in 2 days. So we have a very vigorous CERT, we call it the CERT team. And yeah, we're very, very grateful for that. But we bring in federal, local, and state all to work with us on this. This also led to the police jury in Ouachita Parish gave us $1 million to build out 2 mobile units. And so we'll be taking those out. They're on back order, so it's a year and a half to get a mobile unit now. But we're going to have 2 of those that we'll be able to take to rural communities. And again, it's from the Ouachita Police Jury, but they actually want us to take these throughout the state to help not only during disasters, but also just for health and wellness fairs. So an economic impact. So certain examples. So I do this at in about a month, we'll have our white coat ceremony. So we have that right after they finish their successfully complete their first block of medical education. So that's when we give them their white coats. So they take the medical oath of ethics. But this is 162 students that will be in Monroe. They're renting apartments. They're buying their groceries. I mean, it is a wonderful economic impact that they have. If y'all haven't seen the medical school, it's 100,000 square foot, beautiful state-of-the-art facility, and that brought about $100 million to the state. So it's one of the biggest economic developments that the state's had in decades. We do conferences. So this is our Osteopathic Medical Association here for the state. We host 2 conferences a year. So again, this brings physicians. This is something that actually physicians from the nation want to come down, to visit Louisiana. And actually, the American Academy of Family Medicine is having their national convention here in March. And so it's really a good place that people want to come visit. Each one of these students, so if we have a third of them are from Louisiana, we recruit from Louisiana. About 40% of our students are from communities with a population of less than 20,000 people. And when they go back to those communities, it's about a $1.5 million impact per physician that you put in those communities. So our goal is, and this has been true for our Virginia Tech campus, our campus in South Carolina, and at Auburn, is a majority of our students stay local. And so we have a trend where we show the Appalachian region, and we've had 5,000 graduates so far from BCom. And right there you can see where they all just stay right in that Appalachian region. We're expecting the same thing in the Delta region as well. We also have clinics overseas. This is one, Dominican Republic. We had to put these on hold for about 2 years. So this is actually the first mission trip that our students got to go on. But we have clinics in Honduras and the Dominican Republic. In Honduras, they're going there in 2 weeks. That's why we're doing a lot of simulation. Our record was 200 deliveries in 1 day in Honduras. So our students that want to do OB-GYN, that's where we try to send them. They'll get more deliveries than OB-GYN resident. And I just want to leave time for questions. Probably one thing is, y'all probably want to know, is in osteopathic medicine, we're, one of the foundations that we have is we're very much about preventative medicine. We have the same curriculum as MD schools. We add about 200 or 300 hours of osteopathic manipulative medicine. So we have about 200 or 300 hours added onto our curriculum. But they're very similar in training. Then once they graduate, we have a common residency pathway. So whether you're an MD or a DO, you do the exact same residency program. So, all righty. Did somebody have a, yeah?
Where is this?
So the medical school, so we're located in Monroe, Louisiana. We're on the campus of ULM. So we're a private medical school, and so all we do is offer the medical degree, but we partner with public universities. And so at ULM, we're actually right on the bayou, across from the football stadium. And at Auburn, we're in the Auburn Research Park, and Virginia Tech, we're in the Virginia Tech Research Park. And in Carolinas, it's more freestanding. We are doing joint programs with Clemson right now, but we do like to build the school and bring the students here. It actually costs the state no money because that's our foundation. But we're very mission driven. But yeah, we're in, about 10 minutes off I-20. So, yes.
Has the state increased the number of internships available?
Yes, we're developing those. So at St. Francis this year in Monroe, we started a 15 residency internal medicine program. We're applying at the end of this month for family medicine. I haven't figured out the number of spots. And then we're doing a geriatric fellowship and a sports medicine fellowship as well. So those should all be in the next month.
Yeah, we need geriatricians.
Yeah, tell me, I think I'm one of the only ones up in the northern part of the state. So, yeah, there were 2 in Alabama when I was there. The whole state. Yep. Yep.
Yes, sir. I was interested in your reference to patient training.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if it would be possible for me to send my wife to you.
Okay. So she would be training us, not her training, yeah. I don't think it's how you think it would turn out, so yeah.
Could you give us the definition of osteopathic training and what an osteopathic physician does?
Yeah, so there used to be a very distinct difference. Now it's more blurred. So I'll give an example. When I finished at TCU, so the reason I'm an osteopathic physician is I went to TCU. TCOM is right down the street. And I was originally going to go to the University of Texas at Houston at MD Anderson. And I met my girlfriend, who's now my wife, was a freshman. My parents were about to kill me, but I took a year off, gap year. And, you know, I've been married over 25 years now, which was a great thing. But when I was looking at the differences, my pre-med advisor kept telling me, Mark, you need to look at osteopathic medicine. Because I was more about communication, preventative medicine, diet, exercise. I look for stressors in life that can affect people's health. And so I had I like to look at the whole person. And then, you need to make sure the family unit is and the caregiving units all together. And I was interested in sports medicine as well. And so that's why it was explained to me was because of my focus on the whole person. That's why they were recommending I apply to TCOM. Honestly, I applied because it was down the street from my girlfriend, who's now my wife. So that's how I became an osteopathic medicine physician. But as I was training, a lot of my friends from TCU, they went to UT Houston and to UT Southwestern, and we share a lot of rotation sites together. And I remember being a third year, and one of my classmates at TCU was actually making fun of me because I was presenting a patient that their pulse and blood pressure, I mean, you're giving them medicines, and we prescribe medicine just like everyone else. But to me, one of the key things was she lost her job. She lost a child, had a child death several years ago. And so as I'm presenting this patient, I was looking at them from a holistic point of view. And I remember my classmate from TCU saying, why does that matter? But that was a very distinct difference. Now there's not as much of a difference. I'd say the biggest difference we have now is our osteopathic manipulative training. Where most people will see this is on the sidelines at sporting events. So we cover sports for Auburn Athletics, Virginia Tech, and our chairs of ortho surgery. They cover NFL teams. But looking at the whole person, and then we'll realign if you have as a third-year student, that's the first time I reset a shoulder on a sideline of a football game. But we do a lot of manipulative therapy. So give you an example, this happened at Auburn, and it's about to happen at ULM soon and Virginia Tech, is whenever they link with osteopathic school like us, they usually eliminate their massage therapists, their chiropractors, and then and so it'll, because we're trained in all those techniques as well. And that's what the 200 or 300 extra hours is for. Yeah.
So how does the doctor of osteopathic medicine interact with the other members of the medical community? Is there a collaborative relationship? Is they kind of...
It's very collaborative. I'm afraid of dentists, by the way. So, yeah. I have sensitive teeth, I'm not going to lie. I came here and I was thinking, how in the heck y'all give IV, sedation, all these things? I'm like, I'm getting my teeth cleaned here for sure. It's wonderful. I'm less afraid of the dentist here now. No, we have a very collegial relationship. So I think here when we came to the state, it's, the big school, I mean, it's LSU. We need a strong LSU, right, in the state of Louisiana. And I think, recently, even with LSU, we're going to start doing clinical rotation sites at LSU, Shreveport, Monroe. So we're really starting to work a lot together with with the MD schools in the state. And then in the hospital, I mean, I got two of my geriatric partners are MDs. We train geriatric fellows at Baylor and at Auburn and Emory. But we all just work together. There's not as much of a distinct difference as there used to be. And then we all have the common training pathway now. So, yes.
What are the admission requirements and what is the admission process?
It's the same. So our admission, the only difference is you apply to what we call ACOMAS. So we have 600 seats every year among all of our campuses, and we have about, the applications are down. Last year we had 19,000 applications. And so, yeah, that's one of our biggest teams to filter through. But one of the most important criteria for us is where are you from? That's probably the most important thing, because if we're not recruiting, that recruits to our mission. And so, there are certain things we have to look at, GPA, MCAT, things like that, but we really look a lot beyond that. So, yeah. Yes.
You hear a lot now about treating the whole person. You guys have been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, I was Googling a few things because I've seen, the initials DO, but I wasn't really familiar with what it was exactly that you guys do. How do you get the word out about the type of holistic medicine that you practice? How do you let students know, hey, you can still be a doctor and do a specialty and make a ton of money, and that's your, driving factor. This is just a different way of approaching the same sort of medical needs.
Mainly it's coming to groups like this, and then now that we have our medical students out in the community, we have, soon we'll be probably announcing Willis Knighton is going to be under us for the residency programs, because they see our students and they notice a difference, and it's really the way we start training in the first year. But once our students got out in the community, that's really probably the biggest impact. So we've noticed, like you see, that 32% of our students are from Louisiana. Actually, in this class, it's 40%. So we're just watching that number grow, and it's just more of them being out in the community and people seeing them and being visible. We have high school students. We do a summer program for high school students. We do STEAM camps, for elementary school. And so it's just a matter of being a part of the community. And this isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. And then most of our students will go into primary care. And I think that's where we make that difference. Because it is hard when you're recruiting to, trying to find, rural health, people that will go into rural health.
And quick follow-up, you mentioned rural communities. Are y'all also recruiting the Mississippi Delta?
Yes.
Lower Arkansas, Memphis area?
Yeah, we're recruiting all over the Delta. So our biggest, number one state is Louisiana, our second is Texas, and then third is Mississippi, and then probably followed by Missouri. And we're starting to get some from Kansas as well. But even when we recruit from Kansas, we want people that are from really small towns in Kansas, which is most of Kansas, I guess, but I'm finding out. But yeah. Well, they tell our students when they come here from Mississippi, we rescued you. I think that's what I keep hearing. What's the book that came out that said we're not Mississippi? Is that what it's called? Yeah. It's a great book. Yes.
First of all, Dr. Brookshire is my dentist, and he's the best.
Good recommendation. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, also kind of jumping on the holistic part. I'm an end-of-life doula, and so I know you mentioned that you have sort of hospice and palliative care, and there's been a lot in the news lately about how medical professionals and in medical school, there's not a lot of work. They're taught how to cure, but there are times you cannot.
Yeah.
So they just sort of hand them off to hospice, but that notion of once we're born, we're all terminal, so we all are going to die. So in terms of, with the DOs, is there more time? Is that kind of taken into consideration in the communication about that with families and patients?
So we do quite a bit. I did a end-of-life session with our students just to educate them on how to talk to people. And I probably had half our students at that talk. So they're very interested in, they want to know, how do you communicate bad news to people, and not to give up hope, because there are things we can do, not necessarily curative. And in my private practice, I do house calls, so I go out to patients' homes, and so in palliative care up in Monroe area, I'm going to be a medical director, and we're starting a palliative care program for house calls in that area. So. We'll start in Monroe, but they have offices in Shreveport. They said 3/4 of the state, so I'm hoping those are things we can really make an impact on. But that is something that is woefully inadequate in medical education. So we have some in our curriculum, but it's still not enough, and it's a testament that the students coming to these, this is the type of thing they want to be able to connect to people and talk to them. So. Yeah.
First of all, thank you for being here and shining a light on this. So for the benefit of everyone here, I started my career in Columbus, Ohio, and there's a large field school there, University, Ohio University. Of the physicians that I hired, probably 15 to 20% were DOs. So I was first introduced to them there, and it is very prevalent. They are very much a part of the medical community there. When I moved back, I could probably probably less than 10, period, throughout the remainder of my career here. So I'm glad to see the arrival, and I'm glad to see the education that comes along with it, because there's a difference in the training, but most of the physicians, like I said, like you said, go through the same residency program. So they're getting a balance of both, their DO training, other training, MD training. Thank you.
Yeah, now our residency programs are the same. They've merged, so there's only one pathway now, so, yeah.
Since you're a private school, would you talk a little bit about the cost to the student,
Yeah.
the financial aid that's available to them, and their student debt that they might accrue during the
Yeah.
course of their study?
That's a great question. So our tuition's about $48,000 a year, which probably sounds like sticker shock, but we're the third least expensive private medical school in the country. The only one that's cheaper is Baylor, and it's $18,000 a year, but that's because they have a multi-billion-dollar foundation that covers most of the student tuition. So our students come out about $250,000 in debt by the end of their training. And so that is something that really inhibits students being able to go to rural communities and work. And so we do have scholarships that we do give to students through our private foundation. And there were always, when we're doing fundraising events and things like that, we're not asking people to build a building and things like that. We want them to invest in students. And so that's probably our number one thing we're looking for is scholarships for students. And so we currently have each campus, we have about 5 partial scholarships that we give out a year, and we are looking to grow that. So, but that is a good point, because that is probably one of the number one things that's causing physicians not to go to rural America in general. Here, Governor Edwards and Randy Morris, and he's the president of the Rural Health Coalition, they actually have a loan repayment program. And so students can get up to $50,000 a year for 5 years if they work in a rural community. The reason that's important is because if somebody's established there for 3 to 5 years, there's a 90% likelihood that they will stay and retire in that community. And so that's a really huge benefit, and it's fully funded. And so that is something that will really give Louisiana an advantage. Because there are a lot of physicians that it's attractive to live in a rural community. It's just the affordability and the debt load that they're carrying. So,
Mark, would you speak just to the comparison of the cost of osteopathic and the doctor, MDs?
yeah. So the question was the difference between the cost for an osteopathic degree and a medical degree. Typically, your osteopathic medical schools, most of them are private. I went to University of North Texas, which was public, so for me that amount was set by the state. And so if you went to UT Houston, TCOM, whatever, it was about $8,000 a year. Currently, it's $11,000 a year. So you can see that public cost, and so the cost usually it's more about private versus public, as opposed to allopathic versus osteopathic. We do have 82 schools now, so about a third of all medical students are in osteopathic medical schools. There's going to be a new one opening in Orlando in the near future. One of my friends is now the dean at one they're opening in Chicago. And so one of the biggest challenges our profession is facing is who can be the leaders of these schools that are proliferating. When I graduated, there were about 11 medical schools, so just the last couple of decades, that's gone from that few to 80. And so that's an enormous growth. The reason for that is everybody's interested in primary care, and it is less expensive to begin a DO school. And also our accrediting board, one of the things that was extremely important to osteopathic physicians was they wanted the community to have a big say in starting medical schools, and they didn't want physicians to have veto power. So the fact is, if somebody wanted to start a DO school, they meet the criteria, there's nobody that can stop them. And so that's why one of the proliferation of so many and so quickly is because of that fact. If you're starting an allopathic and MD school, there's a lot more faculty, a lot more things you have to have in place, and it's a drastic difference. So VCOM, we can start a campus for probably $100 million. An MD school would probably be $250 million to do the same thing. So, yeah. So, all right, thank you. Appreciate your time.